We continue with the study of Parshat Vayeshev, the second Aliyah. I'm going to focus more on the third Aliyah today, but just something small from the second Aliyah. So we, of course, are introduced to Yosef and his arrogance in the first Aliyah, his incredible dreams, um, talking about an incredible future where everybody will be bowing down to him. And in the second Aliyah begins with Yaakov sending Yosef. It says that, excuse me, I lost the place. Vayomer Yisrael el Yosef. Israel said to Joseph, Halo achecha roim b'Shechem. Your brothers are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Now Shechem is a dangerous place already. Shechem, Chamor, the son of Shechem. Shechem is the place where Dinah was raped. Doesn't seem like a very good place. L'cha v'ashalachecha alehem. Go and I will send you to them. Vayomer lo hineni. Okay, and he says, I'm here, I'm ready. We know that idea in the Torah, when somebody's ready to do something, this is the way they answer. Hineni, I'm here, I'm ready. Vayomer lo lechna re'eh et shlom achecha v'et shlom hatzon v'ashiveni davar. And he says, go and see how your brothers are they in peace, and go see the if everything's okay for the sheep, and come back to me and tell me. And he sent him from the valley of Chevron to Shechem, and Yosef goes. But what's interesting to me here specifically is the word shalom, because in the first Aliyah, what did it say about Yosef and his brothers? V'lo yachlu dabro l'shalom. They couldn't speak peacefully with each other. Now, the way that I always understand this idea of couldn't speak peacefully is, you have people that anytime they talk, it breaks into a fight. I don't know if any of your children were ever like this. I have this with some of my children. They can't talk about anything. Maybe if they talk about how their parents are terrible, then maybe they can agree on something. But outside of that, any conversation ends up with a disagreement, ends up with an argument, ends up with a fight. V'lo yachlu dabro l'shalom. There was no peace. It was all fights. It was all arguments. And Yaakov tells Yosef, Lech na re'eh et shlom achecha. Go see the peace of your brothers. Go see that they're okay. It's impossible for that to happen. I oftentimes think about this. One of the great questions that's asked about Yosef is, how could Yosef go, and how come Yosef never contacts his father, his beloved father who favors him, who does everything for him? Yosef it's one thing when he's a slave in Egypt, but when he's risen to great power as the viceroy, why doesn't he ever send a letter to his dad? Why doesn't he invite his father to come down there, even if he doesn't want his brothers? And at least to an extent, one could argue that part of it has to do with maybe Yosef thought that his father was part of it. His father sent him on this fool's mission to go and check up on his brothers. Why would he do such a thing? When Yosef shows up, what do the brothers say? They say, let's kill him and throw him in one of the pits. And they're about to kill him. The only reason they don't kill him is Reuven. Now, Reuven, he manages to hold them back by saying, let's not take his life. Don't spill blood, right? Let's throw him into the pit. It goes all the way back to the story of Cain and Hevel. Where's the blood of your brother that's hiding? Right? Your brother's blood is calling out to me from the ground. And right here, he doesn't want to spill the blood. I'm not going to be the one who's going to do this. So what do? Let's turn into the third Aliyah for a moment. They finally come, Kasher ba Yosef el Achav, when Yosef comes to his brothers, and what do? Vayafshitu, this is, by the way, in chapter 37, Parak Lamed Zayin, Pasuk Chav Gimel. Vayafshitu et Yosef, et kutanto, ektonet hapasim asher alav. When Joseph's brothers came to him, what do? They strip off his clothing, his tunic, the coat of many colors, karpas, ktonet ribui pasim. They strip it off of him, right? And then they take it and they throw him into a pit, and they go down and sit to eat. But what I want to talk about a little bit today here is this clothing. One of the motifs that happens specifically in life of Yosef, and many times in the book of Breshit, involves clothing. And with Yosef, it involves 3 times the removal of his clothing, the stripping off of his clothing. Here, he has the ktonet pasim taken off of him. Second time, Yosef is going to rise to being the great servant who's in charge of everything in the house of Potiphar, except he does not have the privilege of intimacy with Potiphar's wife. And Potiphar's wife attempts to seduce him. And what does she do? She rips his clothing off. And then a third time. After that, a few years later, Yosef is in prison. He's in charge of the prison. Yosef always rises to the top. And he's rising to the top. He's at the top of the prison, but nothing good happens to him. And then the Saramashkim, who he reveals what his dream is and is restored to his position of power, he tells Paro, who can't understand a dream, about this Na'ar Ivri, this young Hebrew, and Yosef's clothing is removed, and he is right. He gets a haircut and a shave and all this, and comes and stands in front of Paro. And so, over and over again in the life of Yosef is clothing and clothing stripped off of him. Now, I'm not the first person to notice this and to look into it. There are others who have, amongst them great biblical scholar Robert Alter. And Alter points out specifically that a lot of it has to do with identity shifts. Here we have Yosef. One could argue, and there are those who say that the brothers don't hate Yosef. They hate the Ketonat HaPasim. They hate the coat of many colors. They hate what it demonstrates. That it demonstrates that Yosef is greater, that Yosef's in charge, that Yosef is the royalty amongst them. And so when they pull his coat off, what do? It shifts his identity. He's no longer this child who is in charge. He is, in a sense, an outcast. So he is right. Yosef is humiliated, but the Torah doesn't use. Alter goes on. He talks about that external actions are used right to demonstrate. Yosef here is humiliated. He's entering a new phase of his life. The Torah doesn't say that. There's no editorial that says that, right? The Torah lets the clothing show it. Yosef, his identity is shifted later on. Right, he has risen to the top of the food chain in the house of Potiphar. He's the head of the entire house. But all of a sudden, what happens? His clothing is ripped off. He's once again it's stripped off, and he becomes not just a slave, but he becomes a prisoner. And later on, when his clothing is removed and he is given new clothing, he's taken to the house of Paro, and he's given a trim and looks good. And then what does Paro do? Paro gives him fine linen and a gold chain. This time, the change of clothing is not him being taken down. The clothing is Yosef's new identity as the viceroy of Paro. So the first one is the removal of him as the favored son. They take off the coat. The second one is think it's bad. He's a slave, but he's gone to the top of slavery. No. Now he's going to be a prisoner. When he loses his clothing, he has nothing, not even the shirt on his back. But the final removal of clothing and then the new clothing gives him the new identity. He has reached. It's like that Ketonat Pasim, in a sense, that has been placed back onto him. And so the text of the Torah, through the story of the clothing, is really demonstrating how Yosef, it's a literary pattern that's demonstrating how Yosef undergoes changes in the narrative structure. This is coming out of the text. Now, truth be told, and Alter and others go on about this, that this is not just about Yosef. There are other aspects of clothing. He's not the only one who loses a garment. He's not the only one whose status changes from clothing. He's not the only one who we're trying to show him being humiliated or entering a new life phase through clothing. Clothing is also linked at times in the book of Vayeshev to deception. Think about Yaakov. He dresses in Esav's clothing to deceive Yitzchak. Think about Tamar. Tamar was the daughter-in-law of Yehuda two times. Right, she was married to his first two sons. They both died. She's supposed to marry his third son, and then she's waiting until the third son grows up so she can marry him. And then Yehuda never calls her, and then Yehuda is in her town, and she disguises herself so he won't recognize her. Thinks she's a prostitute, and he sleeps with her. She uses deception to get what she wants because Yehuda is not paying attention to her. Similar, you could say too. You could argue that, Yitzchak is not paying attention to Yaakov. So, right, the changing of clothing, the deception, Yosef's brothers then use Yosef's clothing to deceive Yaakov, right? What do they say in this story as well? What do? They take the coat, they have dipped it in blood, and they say, Haktonet binchai hi imlo, is this your son's clothing? Do you recognize it? We already talked about in the last week how that is a comeuppance to Yaakov, because Yaakov tricked his father by wearing somebody else's clothing, and his father couldn't recognize what son it is. And so the story of Yosef is part of a larger motif, literary device used in the book of Breshit, where clothing, garments mediate truth and lies, the hidden and the revealed, the chosen son, the unchosen son. Torah is used as a symbolic, right? Uses the clothing as a symbol and an instrument of family conflict, of identity shifts, of moving up and down. And so that's Robert Alter writes that, and there are others who write similar things about the clothing. Rav Yoel ben Nun, who's a great Tanakh teacher, sort of the father of contemporary Israeli Pshat and Tanakh. He based what we were saying earlier. The brothers don't hate Yosef, really. They really hate what he stands for. They hate that he's their father's favorite. They hate that he is the one who has the coat of many colors that they don't have. And so they rip off the coat because they're trying to fix things. We had Rivka favored Yaakov. We had Yitzchak favoring Esav. We can't have Yaakov favoring their son. We want to get rid of the old wounds, right? We don't want another sibling rivalry. So they're not just attacking Yosef, but they're attacking this system of one child being favored. And the coat is what embodies. The coat is what demonstrates that Yosef having this fancier coat. So it's right. Right. There's nothing. So what if Yaakov gave Yosef a fancier coat than everybody else? It's what the coat represents. It's a public announcement that Yaakov has chosen Yosef for leadership, that the other brothers are rejecting, and so they take the coat away. They dip it in blood, and what they're trying to do is end the favoritism. They're trying to restore the family unity. And that's what the coat here is an attempt by Rav Yoel ben Nun is this idea. And he gets similar things with the different clothing, right? Think about Ketonet Pasim, Joseph's the favorite child, then he has his slave garment, is his losing of family identity, similar to right Alter. He has the whatever garment it is that you wore as a slave, then he has his prison clothing, and then finally he has his royal clothing. Yosef's life, the clothing shows the difference between the different stages in Yosef's life, and demonstrating that the importance and the significance of the clothing in these parshiot. So you should be very careful with the clothing you wear, the clothing you give to other people, the clothing that you get, because perhaps it can symbolize something else. Now, I don't know that any of our lives have the drama, the up and downs of the life of Yosef that we've spoken about today. But if we want to understand one of the aspects of the life of Yosef, it is the clothing, the taking off, the putting on of clothing, why it's being done, and how that represents the distinctions between deceit and trustworthiness, what it says when somebody else gives clothing, and what it says about the life of Yosef. Let me add one more idea. When we studied in the Tanakh class, the book of Shmuel, we talked a lot about the clothing. Shmuel had a little coat, and his mother would come and fix the coat for him. And the ripping off of the coat by Shmuel of Shaul, the symbolism of the coat, right? The jacket and the coat that represent in that book the kingship. What somebody wears is so significant, and it's not only what somebody wears, but who puts it on them and who removes it from them. And that's one of the keys of following the lines and the story of Yosef and his brothers.